So I'm sure we've all been handed a book at some point in our career or through school that's told us this is how you will do something or this will make you better. Well, I've gotten handed many books, and really I've boiled it down to there are two books that have really added value to me as I've gone through my career. I'd like to share them with you here today. So being out in the working world can sometimes feel like war. There's a lot of things coming at us very quickly. There's danger, there's risk, reward, and as we go through the battlefield of the workplace, there's some things that can help us and make it safer and make it better for everybody that's involved, and that's what we'll cover. One of the books is going to touch on one of the main points that we run into in the working world, and that's conflict. Conflict with coworkers, conflict as we go through trying to discuss ideas or get somebody to change their thoughts. And it can sometimes feel like we're just getting ready to step into the boxing ring, and we need to take that away. After personal conflict, one of the other things that we can struggle with in our working lives is how do we get it all done? And I've been told several times you eat an elephant one bite at a time. And one of the things is where do you start? What bite do you take first? And in the second book that I'm going to discuss, it'll help us understand maybe where we start. These are just a couple of the issues that I've dealt with in my career, and there are many more, but I think these are two big ones for a lot of us out there in the working world. And so the next question is, where do we start? What books do we find? How do we find them? How many do I have to read? As we know, I'm only going to talk about two here today, but there are a lot out there. In this library alone, there are probably millions of books. Although I'd like to go to this library, it's in Trinity College in Ireland. But how do I narrow down the books? How do I find one that's going to help me actually answer the questions? How is it going to give me the knowledge that I need? And how is it going to be interesting so that I keep reading it? Because if I don't keep reading it, it won't do me any good and I won't learn from it. So there is one out there, Please Understand Me Too, which if you can read it for 5 minutes, you're doing much better than I could. This explains behavior through equations and gets to be really difficult and long to read. So we want to try to maybe find books that we can relate with better, and maybe they tell us a story. They give us a picture in our head of what this really looks like. And I think the two books that we're going to discuss, you'll see that they have a lot of similarities to the lives we live, and really sounds like a story that we can get into and learn from. Without further ado, the first book that I'm going to discuss is The Five Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lencioni. And this was a book that was given to me in my mining days. It was given to all managers, and it was great because you could actually see the managers that had read it, and you could see some of the changes in their behaviors as they looked at how they reacted with people. The book is based in Silicon Valley, and it covers new CEO who's taking over her team. She's assessing the weaknesses. She's looking at the interaction of the team, and she really comes up with 5 dysfunctions that she walks the team through. And there's some really great parts of it where people have to be held accountable. The journey takes place in a conference room, and they discuss all of these dysfunctions. And the first one is lack of trust, and really boils down to being unwilling to be vulnerable, to trust people, to tell them what they need help with. And the team really struggles with this and as they go through it. And then they get into the fear of conflict, where it's nobody wants to be the bully or wants to say that somebody else is wrong, so you have a fake harmony, and that's when you get people chatting in corners and they don't come forward with ideas that really make them better, so they lay out a lot of things on the table. And the next one is the lack of commitment. And great quote by Vince Lombardi: most people fail not because of lack of desire but because of lack of commitment. And it's that same lack of commitment in a business group that creates ambiguity and keeps people from making decisions. And also the avoidance of accountability. This is also where people avoid making decisions. They duck the responsibility to hold people accountable, and even their peers. And the great thing in this was not holding people accountable from a discipline standpoint, but holding your peers accountable to getting things done and keeping the team together. That was really a great point of it. And then the last one is inattention to results. And if we don't focus in on the bullseye, there's really no value in what we're doing. So when you're not looking at the results, when the team doesn't agree on what the results should be, it's hard to get there. And all 5 of these things are covered very well in this writing and in this book. The second book I think everyone should read is The Goal by Eliyahu M. Goldratt. And this was one that was given to me when I asked the CEO of a company, what should I do to move forward? And his answer was, read The Goal and then get back with me. And it was really an interesting moment when I did get back with him. This is a manufacturing book, so people who are manufacturing are really going to get it, especially plant manager type levels, because it puts into perspective all of the things that a plant manager, operations manager can struggle with. And so it's a person running a plant, and he's struggling, and just by chance he runs into one of his professors in an airport, and the professor uses a Socratic method and just lays it out for him. Well, what do you think the goal is? And there's some great dialogue as they go back and forth about what is the goal, how do you find it, and the professor plays a little bit coy, but ultimately helps lead him down the road. And as the hero in the story is out leading a Cub Scout troop, it really comes out to him. He's walking the group down the trail, and one of the boys is holding the group up. The boy happened to be Herbie, and suddenly he realized, he had the epiphany, this is where the problems in my plant come from. And ultimately, he leads his team through an assessment of bottlenecks and manufacturing bottlenecks and process bottlenecks that really were keeping the company from being profitable. Because as the goal boils down to, it's the profitability of the company. It's making money for the company, eliminating those bottlenecks. So they go through a whole process and really come out to a great result.